This is the weekly wrap up presented by the Conversation Project, and I am Jay Cleveland Payne. I'm going to give you the top 10 stories per your engagement on Facebook and Twitter, or X, from the past week, which goes all the way from Friday, the 20, actually Friday the 15th of March to Friday the 22nd of March. Going the wrong direction in that right here. And this is simply the wrap up of news stories that we posted all week long on those feeds on Facebook and Twitter, and the ones we talked about most thoroughly in the week. Now, we'll give you some perspective, doing some new things going forward and shortening things up to make this show more pithy, but give more highlights on what we're actually talking about here. The podcast, straight stats, the top 10 stories per your engagement in the past week, and then one more story that was just out of range to give you perspective of something that we covered but did not get the love that you actually gave in the numbers. Sort of perspective what's going on there. We'll give you some more impact on that as well, so you'll get all that in this podcast, in this video cast right now. We'll explain how the feeds work towards the end as well, so stick tuned for that. I want to remind you that our website is theconversationproject.com. More details on how we do things all week long, all day long, posting information, news articles, and hot takes all the time. You can email us at theconversationinbox@gmail.com, theconversationinbox@gmail.com, for more ways to talk to us. And we'll talk about partnering with us and helping out the show in a bit as well. So let's get into the newer version of the weekly wrap up. You can let us know what we're doing for today. This is for the week ending March the 23rd, 2023. The first story we have is headline number 10, count them down 10-1 from Casey Kasem style. Starting off with this headline, which reads, car crashes into West Portal bus stop in San Francisco, leaving 3 dead, infant injured. Now, a new thing we're doing this week, we'll let you know right now, is we're putting spotlights on stories we actually talked about in the daily newscast and things we didn't. This is one we didn't, and a lot of the stories this week were car crashes and people dying in car crashes. They did not make the daily cut because they weren't quite as entertaining. We're not doing quite the it bleeds it leads things, but this is the show that gives you gives us accountability to the stories that actually are getting the love from you in the responses, or the hate, or the frustration, if you will. Very quickly on this story, a tragic incident happening in San Francisco where a third person actually succumbed after the original report to injuries on a Sunday night SUV crash into a West Portal bus stop happening. This unfortunate event raises lots of concerns on people and fatalities in these types of incidents. We had many of them this week, and we didn't talk about many of them at all inside of the daily show going forward. So this will be the first time a lot of people will get the response of this being something we're talking about. But as I said, the number 10 story by all your responses, by all your engagement, is this one right here. And the story at the very bottom, 281 different engaging stories this week. So out of 281 stories, this one was a top 10 hit, for lack of a better term, and very bad pun, unfortunately. Number 9 story. Prosecutors say New York subway shooting may have been self-defense. It just keeps getting sort of bad to worse in these cases, some of these stories we cover this week. In a recent incident in New York City, a man who shot and critically wounded another passenger on a subway train may have actually acted in self-defense. As information becomes available, no charges have been made immediately for this case, but as people in New York City are dealing with more unrest in the subway, safety issues with people who are vagrants, people who are just mentally ill and kind of off. And of course, the New York governor bringing in the National Guard to check purses, which did not bring a lot of great kind goodwill to her. There's a lot of things going on. For this case in particular, this is one that may be one that the law will get the guy off on, because it might be a person harassing someone. He was literally defending himself from any harm. But this may be one of the few cases where this thing happens. We know what happened with the case of the man who choked the other guy to death on the subway. That turned into a national case. This one, not quite yet. We shall see going forward. The story, that's number 8 story for this week. The headline reads, Marvel Studios no longer developing Eternals 2 and Captain Marvel 3. Big news came out from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Disney and Marvel and all those folks. They axed a couple of actual projects that were more or less planned. Captain Marvel 3, which was expected to basically follow up Captain Marvel 2, has been scrapped because of the response from Captain Marvel 2. Although the movie itself sets up a brand new parts to the multiversal acts that have in the Marvel's movie universe. And of course, the Eternals 1 is going to be a key part to the upcoming Captain America movie. The fact that they won't get any extras going forward is a big step in the direction of one, cleaning house for all this sort of Marvel bloat there is, and of course, hopefully saving money. Now, this is the cases where many of these studios are trying to save money by not doing things that were planned, and in some cases, taking movies that were done and scrapping them. You've heard about the Batgirl movie that was done, and of course, the Wile E. Coyote movie that's basically going to be erased because they don't want to put it out and do whatever with it for a tax break. This saves them a tax break by not making these movies in the first place and not having people complain about them, but we also lose a little bit of some storyline, I guess. Eternals, full disclosure, not seen it. I know why it's important and kind of the gist of it, but not actually seen this movie in the Marvel Universe. The number 7 story for this morning, I say morning as we record this on Saturday morning. Headline reads, Connecticut Huskies, Purdue Boilermakers, North Carolina Tar Heels, and Houston Cougars are your top 4 seeds for the men's 2024 NCAA basketball tournament. And they are still in the hunt after round 1, the first 2 days of the tournament. The first, actually, technically, first 4 days, because the first 4, where the play-in games come in on Tuesday and Wednesday, happen to get people in some 16 spots and 11 spots. But what happened then? Let's go over the upsets from round 1 and tell you why all the brackets, there are literally no brackets on any online betting site or any online game site that is clear, because the one that killed me last night was the Auburn game where Yale, number 13, beat Auburn, number 4 in the listing. That Auburn was in my Final Four, so now I can still win, but I can't win many points. Duquesne, I'm always saying that wrong, beat BYU, the number 11 beat number 6. This team did not been in the tournament for about 40 years, hadn't won in 60 years. They get a big win for a second round berth. In the South region, James Madison, the 12 over number 5 Wisconsin. Number 11 North Carolina State, who won the ACC by all miracles, got a win over Texas Tech. Number 6, they're still dancing. Number 14 Oakland beats Kentucky, the number 3 start in Oakland, another Cinderella story on its own. And Colorado at 10 beats number 7 Florida. Midwest region, 1 upset, 11 Oregon over South Carolina. And the West region, just 1 upset, Grand Canyon, number 12, over St. Mary's at 5. Now, you can keep watching these things all weekend long, next 3 weekends basically, on CBS, TBS, TNT, and True TV, and of course, the Paramount Plus digital network. The women's games are on the ESPN network, so check them out as well. Great games going on for them, including a lot of people seeing if Iowa's Caitlin Clark can make this thing happen this year as well. Let's go to the story we have at number 6 for today. For the morning as we're doing this. Number 6 is Shohei Ohtani's attorney accused interpreter of massive theft tied to alleged gambling. We did actually cover the March Madness story online with the Morning Blue. We covered this one as well, and this is one that's grown into greater proportions because now many folks are investigating the actual gambling and the ring that the player is involved in, although he's not technically involved in, we don't think, but his caddy, I keep thinking golf, his interpreter is. So the big deal about this is that Shohei Ohtani's interpreter has been stealing from Ohtani and taking his money to pay off gambling debts. Very, very large debts. Now, we are told he did not bet on any baseball, betting on lots of sports, but not on baseball per se, because, you know, in baseball, rule number 1 is don't bet on baseball or you're banned for life. Pete Rose rule. It's not really called that, but it's essentially Pete Rose is banned for life for betting on baseball. Now, we don't know if Ohtani has been involved in any of this stuff, if he knew what was going on, that this happened. But what's happening to him as the highest paid professional athlete ever is his standing as upright, upstanding guy, the greatest guy in the world, nice guy, is getting tarnished because of what's happening with his interpreter and maybe what's going on with looks like a very extensive gambling ring that his interpreter was betting into. We'll see how this thing plays out going forward, because now the feds are investigating what exactly is going on with this guy and the guys at Central, if it rolls over to Ohtani. Number 5 story. Rapper Fat G's killed in North Philadelphia shooting. Excuse me. Quick hydration break. Caught in a cough. Philadelphia rapper Fat G's, born Derek Gant, tragically lost his life in a shooting incident in the Brewertown area of North Philadelphia. It occurred on Sunday, marked a somber moment in the local community and music scene. As of the reports we have, there have been no arrests made, no connection to any incidents. Nothing's been updated that we have seen in there. And this is a story that we posted that obviously, as we said, a lot of things were mayhem and murder this week. This is one we did not actually post into the feeds. Whereas we posted into the feeds, but did not talk about the pick for as a story in a story for the Things You Might Have Heard daily show. A lot of those stories you will see going forward, and this is another one of them. Story we put in there just for filler. Not only was it filler, apparently we had a lot of folks who cared about Fat G's, the music scene in Philly, or just Philly in general, and it picked up a lot of steam, a lot of momentum for this weekend. And number 4, this is a story we definitely put on there because we've been honestly piling on Tucker for a while. Tucker Carlson pranked by YouTubers pretending they edited Kate Middleton photo. We'll get back to Kate Middleton in a bit as she's a bit higher in the countdown, lower by number. But we talked about Tucker Carlson as he discussed having people on his show who were the editors of the photo, the original photo, the photo of for Mother's Day that got everybody all a tizzy. Now, however, these people were pranksters, YouTubers, pretending to be the people who edited the photo and flat out lied and caught Tucker Carlson with his pants down in this case. They claimed they were fired Kensington Palace employees who were just doctoring a photo to put out there because they needed something out there, and it was false. It was just another case of a Baba Booey issue for Tucker Carlson. This month, 2 injured after shooting in busy Jacksonville Beach Bar District. Another story we did not cover inside of Things You Might Have Heard because there were other things that were either worse because we had some war things or lighter because we had a lot of lighter things than this one. It seemed like an isolated incident, but this was a story that we picked up and that you pulled into very somberly. That was posted on Tuesday, I should say, of this week. An active shooter incident in Jacksonville Beach downtown area St. Patrick's Day. On St. Patrick's Day resulted in 1 fatality and 2 individuals being critically injured. So this is something that happened over the weekend, and we posted it kind of late. Shooting disrupted the busy festivities, bringing swift police response to the scene. One reason why we posted this one is because it seemed like it was tied into spring breaking stuff because it happened as spring break was going on. So it garnered attention to see how it was going to play. It played well enough to be a top story for one of the days and very much a top story this week. But we did not cover it because we were trying to basically stay away from this. Didn't fall in line with the themes that we had for the days this week. At number 2, back to Kate Middleton. Reported Kate citing Finn Quayle speculation about her health. And yes, we cover this a lot, including the actual follow-up, the actual breaking news yesterday that Kate Middleton was why she was out of the spotlight. First, why the spotlight kept looking for her. Many pictures, many sightings, many things that were supposed to be Kate had the microscope out from many internet sleuth trying to figure out what's going on. Who's this person? Walking with William. No, it's a body double. No, it's an actress. People were worried, people were caring, and all the other pictures and all the other speculatory visions of Kate turned into all sorts of speculation. Speculation can be over now. Kate Middleton has announced in a video yesterday that she was suffering from cancer after the surgery she had 2 weeks ago. Her recovery has been very slow because they thought everything was fine. Finding out there is cancerous issues with the surgery. She's undergoing chemo. She's asking for privacy for the family, and that's what's happening. She's been out of sight because she's been recovering from the surgery that's been much, much worse than people thought. But the sightings that were going on had everyone on a Kate watch trying to figure out what the hell was going on with Kate Middleton. Where was she? Was there a body double? Was she dead? What is happening? We know what's happening. And she is going through cancer treatments along with King Charles. And so they are basically have a super bond now of what they're going through together. No mention, just as with Charles, what the actual cancer was. But we do know she's undergoing chemotherapy basically as we speak. And now, let's go to this week's top story, giving it some love and affection that it would get anyway, even though, unfortunately, the topic, not so great. Now, the top story this week, this was the top story this week in with your Facebook responses and almost with your Twitter, because it was that high. You cared about this that much. We probably should have put it into the daily show, but we did not because of the gruesome nature of it, and it's gruesome, so we'll tell you that one. This story is more engaging than the story before that with Kate Middleton by 80.8%. 80% more engaging. I had to switch the buttons on my screen there. The story at the very bottom, which you call the almost relevant story of the week, we did. We're not covering this week. We may put it back in here. The story at 282, the story no one really cared about. It is more responsive by 573,900%. That's how much more responsive the story that you didn't care about. So we're not talking about it. But it is a very, very tragic headline. Headline for this story reads: toddler hit, killed by Uber driver in Texas after dropped off at apartment. In Harris County, Texas, a tragic incident happened where a toddler was struck and killed by an Uber driver. Harris County Sheriff's Office had stated that the case remains under investigation. Sad event raised concerns about the safety of vehicles and safety of kids around them. Essentially, the family had just gotten dropped off at home, and somehow, some way, the toddler was hit by the Uber driver moving out and killing the toddler in the incident. I'm not going to spend a lot of time dwelling on this one, obviously, because this is not one that must be dwelled on. The figures of the case is sort of there. But this does present to you the top 10 stories per your engagement here for the Conversation Project. This gives us whatever cover we need to show what we're actually talking about and how it responds to what's going on. Of course, I said we're doing some new pithier stuff, so it's a little shorter. We're not going to go into all the almost rants, not doing the almost relevant story of the week if you're a past listener, so this is a much shorter thing. This is the part where we have to come to the sponsors part, because we have to use sponsors to pay the bills, if you will. Let's start with ground news. We've got a lot of some stories this week, and we're using them extensively because it's been a very hectic, crazy week of news in general. A lot of things kind of hovering over the Kate Middleton stuff, and so it's hard to find other stories to get to because the aggregators are all going straight to Kate Middleton or straight to government shutdown, things like that. So we leaned a lot on ground news this week, and you should as well. Ground news allows you to check on what news is being covered by all angles, all perspectives, and give you a chance to see what's being missed. Many stories we got from the blind spot email that we got every day. Every day we got an email from stories that were being covered, but not being covered by one particular side, one particular bent. They may be covered more by Republicans and more than by Democrats, or vice versa, more by conservative media than by liberal media, and vice versa. And so if you cover and follow mostly one brand of media, you're not getting those stories. That's one of the great things about ground news. They take any story out there, any headline, any big topic, and let you know by a scale how it's being covered. It'll let you know on what side's being covering it the more, what side's covering it the less, and who may or may go in there. And some stories that literally aren't getting any coverage. They're kind of out there. They're available, but no one's really picked up on them because they don't really tell a narrative that makes their side go better or the other side look worse. You should check out Ground News today, because I'm assuming you've gotten this far in this news podcast. You are a news junkie. You want to know how things work out. If you get a subscription using our link, we get a small commission back for it. And you can get news for less than $1 a week. It's that simple. Go to thisisaconversationproject.com/ground news. This is conversationproject.com/ground news, and click the link and join today. If you subscribe to the service, we get a small commission back, and it costs you very little to get your good news. Sometimes to say better news, at least your perspective on the news, from an app, from a place like Ground News. We also want to talk a quick bit about us, the Conversation Project, a little bit about promoting what we have going on here. Apologies for being a little words not working so well today, because we are doing some new things and some things on the fly that are not working. So email us at theconversationinbox@gmail.com to let me know what's working, not working this week, and what I should tweak on to work on better. The script's a little bit out of order, to be honest, when we move things around. So things happen. But the Conversation Project lives online at theconversationproject.com. This is theconversationproject.com for you to see what we do all the time. Not only to produce this thing here, which is a wrap-up of news stories we covered all week or had a chance to cover all week, we cover these stories in various ways. Every single weekday we have things you might have heard. A update in the morning gives you 8 to 10 stories based on the previous day or weekend that are interesting going forward. We do hot takes interjections on video in TikTok and on YouTube Shorts. We're doing more longer form but shorter videos that are going to do more news stuff. We're trying to figure out a way to do that brings people in closer to the numbers we're getting for the hot takes. Those are pretty hot. We like those. And of course, we have the Story of the Week podcast, which would be one of the top 10 stories that we're going to expound on going forward. We used to do a bigger kind of presentation on it. Right now, we are leaning towards doing the story that deals with the highest paid athlete in the world having his interpreter with a gambling problem, and how that looks for all of everyone, the gamblers, the interpreter, the player, and sports in general, as gambling, especially in a week where we have March Madness, gambling's at an all-time high for this week. So that's what we're leaning for the Story of the Week. Look for that in a separate feed podcast. If you're watching videos, it'll come in the same feed at some point in time later on in the day. We need you, though. We need you to help us out by going to the partnership page at our website, or sponsors page or website. Sponsors is simple. You click on a list, keep things going by giving us hype some partners at the end of the show. We're going to start doing that as well to give more love to those folks who are helping out. But we can use the help. We can use the help. We can use the help. Go to our website. This is conversationproject.com. Find out more details of what you can do to help us in all general ways. The most important thing you can do is follow us on our feeds. The feeds are at Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/This is a Conversation Project. Twitter.com or X.com/th_conversation. Go to the feeds, because 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're posting news stories about every 50 minutes for you to engage in. And as you engage in those stories, that tells us what the count is and where we should go with them. It's that simple. It's that simple. Engage in the story more. You love it, hate it, share it. More people that do, better chance you have to talk about it on the Daily Show and here. As we see in our newest iteration, we had a lot of stories that we didn't want to get into because of the gruesome nature and just how we want to make things go along. But we gave you the transparency part of what stories actually got the big numbers, and you'll see that if you subscribe to the newsletter as well. That is all for the promo for us. One quick thing to give you some perspective. This is a story that was out of range. I was out of range by literally one ticker, one click. The number 11 story this week. Bill Maher fires CAA after being snubbed for Brian Loud's Oscar party. This one is a story we actually talked about. We actually hovered over this for a while, calling Bill Maher kind of a jerk, kind of an ass, but he has the right to be that, I guess. Essentially, he did not get invited to a big Oscar party, so he fired his representation, because that's what happened. That's for Uber 11. Just a smidge off top 10 coverage. Special love and thanks to partners who are on the scene. Partners being Harold Braxton and Colby Green. And we had a shout out come this week from Sharon G., who won a shout out Social Workers Month. So shout out received. We do shout outs with $2 Holler Tuesdays and the Daily Show. So on Tuesdays, look for a chance to get a shout out in for the Fridays and the Saturday editions of things. And that's simple with that one. Yes, it's a paid thing, so you'll see that on Tuesdays. So follow us on the YouTube or the Facebook or the Twitter and watch things you might have heard on Tuesday. Find out how you can get a shout out at the end of the week going forward. Reminding you one more time that our website, this is conversationproject.com. Our email address is a conversationinbox@gmail.com, where you can learn about us, and then you can email about us and tell us a bit about us. Please be gentle. Our feeds. The important thing is our feeds. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/This is a Conversation Project, and Twitter, twitter.com or x.com. We'll change the slide once the site stops actually going to Twitter /th_conversation. We post news stories every 50 minutes or so for you to engage in from various different sources. So you may like the source, you may not like the source, you may hate the title but love the story. Sometimes we mix up a title with the source just to kind of game it a bit more. And you let us know how it's working out for you. Like him, love him, hate him, share him to get the stories in here for this wrap up and every single day for our news stories. With that, we will bid you adieu with our newest version, I'll say a cleaner version of the really weekly wrap up for the week ending March 23rd, 2024. A little fumbly, a little mumbly. We'll do better next week, we promise, because we had some new changes to all things going on this week, and all of a sudden we just sort of implemented it and we're kind of making it work. Way more behind the scenes than you need to hear, but it is what's going on. Consider being a partner. Go to our website. This is the Conversation Project. Click the partnerships page. Consider partnering up with us to help us do more things. More things, more resources, mean more time, more work, and better stuff. If you like what we're doing right now, think of how much more we can do with your help. So we encourage that. Make sure you stay limber and stay hydrated and stay on task for all the grand things you're here to do. Love you. Mean it. Let's get through this weekend. A lot of great things on this weekend. And of course, we will see what stories will be wrapped up as the wrap up for next week and what stories we'll actually cover next week daily in the things you might have heard news gathering we have every single weekday morning. Till then, we'll see you next week.